Welcome back. My name is Chris, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the cross-validation rules app made by Netgain. Now, at this point, I've done a number of videos and full-length courses for various Netgain products. I particularly like them not only because they serve and really enhance functions and features related to the CFO's office, but more importantly, because all of their products are native NetSuite, unlike many of the other competitors. And that's something I think is a major value add for customers. And this particular product, Cross-Validation Rules, is no different. So let's talk about it. Basic concept of cross-validation rules is it allows you to create rules in the system that dictate where transactions can be posted and the various transactional data that goes along with it. So the obvious question is, why would you want something like that? Well, for all of the accounts out there, have you ever had to go in and find out why a particular transaction was posted to the wrong account? Or have you ever had to go in and fix a miscoded department or class on a transaction? Have you ever had to explain to an auditor why a particular expense hit the wrong subsidiary? All of these are symptoms of the problem that NetSuite doesn't have any existing method to provide safeguards or limitations on what transactions can be posted where. Cross-validation rules seeks to remedy that by allowing you to make whatever rules you need in the system to prevent incorrect information and transactions from being posted at the entry point. So you can stop them before they happen, and at the end of the day, you're not having to play detective. So that's the basic concept in terms of why you might want something like cross-validation rules, and with that in mind, let's take a look at it. All right, so here we are in the system. We're obviously in a Netgain demo account. To get to cross-validation rules, we're gonna come up here to Netgain, down to CVR, and you can see right here we have rules. So let's open that up in a separate tab and just explain how these rules work. And it's actually quite straightforward. There's really not that much to it in terms of the complexity. You can get very detailed with the rules that you create, but they're quite intuitive to create. So right now we're looking at the rules that already exist. You can see they each have a name, a basic type of rule. So just to illustrate the first one, let's come over here to a rule I created called Accounts Require Class and Department. And we're gonna open that one up. So on this rule, we can see we give it an appropriate name, and then there's two different types of rules we can create. We can create either a prevention type or a detect type. So let's first explain prevent. Prevent is going to make it so that you cannot violate this rule in the first place. It won't allow you, as opposed to detect, which will allow you, but it will warn you saying, hey, are you sure you want to do this? So in this particular case, this prevent rule is saying that for these transaction types, which in this case is basically every transaction type available, but you could limit that down if you wanted to. Maybe if you only wanted it to be journal entries, you could limit it down to that point. It's saying that based on this transaction type, there are filters and requirements. And I like to think about this in terms of criteria, in terms of what transactions this is actually going to impact. And then requirements dictates, okay, well, if this transaction is applicable, these are the rules that need to be followed. So to illustrate this even better, I'm going to open up a recent transaction. We've got this journal entry. So let's say this is the particular transaction that is going to be interacting with this rule. So first off, we've got our filters. And again, I think about those like criteria. In this case, we have a very simple set of filters. It's just the account has to be any of this particular account, this meals and entertainment. So this rule will only apply if that criteria is hit. So let's take a look at our journal entry. If we come here, we can see we have this standard journal entry. Coming down here, it looks like it's got two line items. One is a receivables, another one is a provision for taxes. Neither of them are meals and entertainment. So this journal entry as it currently stands is not going to be impacted by this rule. So let's actually add the account in here so it will become applicable. Let's come in here, and if we go 6120, which is our meals and entertainments account, and we're going to do a debit of, let's say, $500. All right, so we're going to add that in there. And let's say we select now just some bank account, some cash account. So we're going to come in here. We've got our Netgain Inc. Bank, and that's going to automatically fill in the other $500. So now by adding that, we now have this particular journal entry is applicable, or it fits the criteria for this rule. So all we've done now is hit the criteria, but we haven't yet seen, well, what is this rule going to dictate needs to be done now that we've hit the criteria? And that's contained within the requirements. In this particular case, there's only two requirements. One, the class must be not empty. So in other words, that class field for the transaction overall, our journal entry, has to be populated with something, and the department can't be equal to engineering. In other words, it can't be the engineering department. So for whatever reason, we've decided no engineers are going to be posting to the meals and entertainment account. Tough luck for them. So in this particular case, let's take a look back at our journal entry. And if we come up here, well, we can already see we're violating this rule because we have the class is empty. So let's say we came in here and went, all right, well, we don't want it to be empty. We're going to specify it as accessories is the class. Now, we right now do not have department populated, which is actually fine. As long as it's not populated with engineering, this journal entry could be saved, no problem. It's not violating the rule at this moment. So the rule, which is a prevent rule, is not going to come into play yet. But because I want to show you how this actually works, I am going to put in engineering. And you'll get a concept of how these rules can actually prevent mistakes from being made. So I'm going to come up here and hit save on this journal entry. And at the same time, I'm going to show you on this rule, we can see automatically what's going to happen if the rule is broken. So you can see it's going to come up with an error message. This transaction needs the right class and department. And that message, as we can see here, populates right in there. It gives us whatever custom message we want. It even includes the link. So any user could come in here, click on that link, and it will show them what rule explicitly they violated and what they violated as part of that. So it provides that insight. It helps train the staff as they're making the mistakes so that they can remedy whatever issues are coming up. So that is an example of how a prevent rule works more generally. And in this particular case, I would say this is a relatively simple rule. You can get much more elaborate than this. For example, under filters, we only have one criteria. We could add many different additional criteria as we require. We can also come into requirements and make it a lot more detailed. For example, as we currently have it, both of these requirements have to be fulfilled for the rule to not block a transaction. But we could click this button, require all, and it would take that feature off so that as long as the transaction fulfilled any one of the requirements, it's okay. So something could be violated, but as long as it fits into one slot, no problem. We could also, by clicking this feature here, we could make it so that it's not going to be treating this journal entry overall in accordance with the rule, but from a line-to-line basis. So every single line can either be fine for the rule or violate the rule, in which case it'll come up that that particular line is problematic. So you can get as detailed as you want, and that's just for one rule. You could create as many rules as you want. So let's now come and take a look at not just prevent, but how would detect work? So the basic mechanics of detect are identical, but again, it's not going to stop the person from posting the thing. It's just going to warn them. So they could still post. So at the end of the day, you might wonder, well, why would I want that to happen? If I want to set a rule saying something shouldn't happen and someone overrides it, well, I'm still going to have a problem on my hand. Well, not necessarily, because they also have these cross-validation rules reports. So if we go to that, this provides a report kind of functionality. We've got filters on top, the results in the bottom, and let's limit this now just to detect. And I'm going to set the filter as the end of February. And we're going to set the rule. We're going to make sure that every rule is applicable just to see all the various things that come up. So you can see we have a number of different transactions that have occurred. And these are not preventative, right? These are all instances where they came up and someone posted them anyways. And we can even see the exact transactions that were posted. So it looks like a journal entry was done, as well as some kind of, who knows, that might have been a cash transaction. It could have been an invoice. The point is we could go to those transactions. We can also see the exact rule that is being violated. We can see the date, and most importantly, we can see who's the culprit in this case. So we can go in and say, listen, these are all coming from Paige. Clearly, Paige has something she doesn't understand. Well, we need to simply groove her in on why this is a problem and how she can avoid it in the future. So this allows us to go in even if a mistake is made, and we can see, is it valid? if this was done by, let's say, the controller, and we know he had a good reason to violate that particular rule, we might say, okay, great, that's fine. We don't have to go into that. But if Paige is making mistakes left, right, and center, well, then we're obviously going to want to go in and resolve that. We can also set the control type to prevent, which will allow us to see, because if you think about it, the preventative rule won't allow those transactions to be posted, but it will still make note of the fact that somebody tried. So for example, the fact that I just tried to post that journal entry and hit the roadblock on that preventative rule, that will pop up here. So you can know, even if the rule is preventing someone making mistakes like Paige, we still understand, okay, great. Well, clearly there's something she doesn't get about whatever transaction she's trying to post. Let's still train her up on that so it doesn't happen in the future. All right, so that's a quick look at cross-validation rules in NetSuite. Now, as you can imagine, the implementation for this product is very simple. It usually takes about a few hours to get it up and running, and then you can make as many rules as you want. And if you're interested in cross-validation rules, I will have a link for that down below. And keep in mind, if you click on that link and end up purchasing the product, it does help sponsor this channel, so I do appreciate it. And if you are interested in other Netgain products, things related to cash flow management, bank reconciliations, fixed asset management, month-end close procedure, I do have YouTube videos on all of the various Netgain products. You can check those out. And I made a full-length course on the NetClose product, which you can find the link for that down below. It's entirely free, so I highly recommend you check that out. And hopefully you found this video overall helpful, in which case, please hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and with all of that in mind, I hope to see you in the next video.